passed this worldview on to her daughter from an early age. Born in the bustling city of Ibadan, Moreo's childhood was one of privilege. Her father, Chief Folarin, had been a successful businessman, owning a chain of textile factories. Tragically, he passed away in a car accident when Moreo was just 3 years old. Though her memories of him were faint, the stories her mother told painted a picture of a loving father who doted on his daughter. After Chief Folarin's death, Mama Aduk channeled her grief into protecting and pampering Moreo. To ensure her daughter never lacked anything, Mama Aduk spared no expense. She expanded her late husband's businesses and invested wisely, growing their wealth exponentially. Moreo grew up in a mansion adorned with marble floors, chandeliers, and gold-accented furniture. The house was surrounded by lush gardens, tended by a team of dedicated gardeners. By the time she was 10, Moreo was already accustomed to a life of indulgence. She had her own room decorated in pastel colors with imported furniture, a wardrobe filled with the latest fashion from Paris, and a fleet of nannies and maids at her beck and call. Moreo was not only spoiled with material things, but also with love and attention. Her mother, fearful of losing her only child, seldom said no to her requests. If Moreo wanted a pony, she got a pony. If she wanted a trip to Dubai, arrangements were made immediately. Her birthdays were legendary, with elaborate parties that featured live performances, exquisite catering, and gifts that left her classmates in awe. Despite being doted on, Moreo was not entirely devoid of good qualities. She was a cheerful and curious child who loved storytelling and was known for her infectious laughter. Her natural beauty made her stand out among her peers, and she quickly became the darling of her school. Her large, almond-shaped eyes, smooth caramel skin, and long, jet-black hair made her the subject of admiration. However, her sheltered life came at a cost. Moreo grew up with a sense of entitlement and a lack of understanding of the struggles of others. She saw her maids, drivers, and security personnel as mere extensions of the luxurious world her mother had built. While she wasn't unkind, she rarely saw them as individuals with their own lives and aspirations. As a teenager, Moreo's social circle consisted of other children from wealthy families. Her closest friends, Kemi and Toke, shared similar lifestyles. Kemi was the daughter of a prominent lawyer, while Toke's parents owned a chain of luxury hotels. Together, the three girls spent their days attending high-end schools, shopping for designer clothes, and organizing sleepovers that involved private chefs and spa treatments. Kemi was the practical one in the group, often serving as the voice of reason. She was ambitious, dreaming of becoming a top fashion designer. Toke, on the other hand, was more carefree, living in the moment and often indulging in lavish whims. Moreo, being the wealthiest of the trio, was often the leader, deciding their plans and footing the bill without hesitation. Their friendship, though genuine, was built on shared privilege and lacked depth. None of them had ever faced significant hardship, and their discussions rarely ventured beyond fashion, parties, and the latest social media trends. Yet they were happy in their bubble, unaware of the challenges that lay beyond their gilded lives. Mama Aduk, meanwhile, was a complex figure. On one hand, she was fiercely protective and loving toward Moreo. On the other, she had a sharp business acumen and a no-nonsense attitude when it came to managing her late husband's empire. She was respected in society as a woman of strength and elegance, often seen at charity galas and community events. But Mama Aduk had her flaws. Her overindulgence of Moreo stemmed from her own insecurities. Losing her husband had left her with a fear of abandonment, and she compensated by trying to make her daughter's life as perfect as possible. She believed that wealth and comfort were the ultimate shields against pain. She also struggled with loneliness. Though she was admired by many, Mama Aduk's high standards made it difficult for her to maintain close friendships. Her life revolved around her daughter and her businesses, leaving little room for herself. By the time Moreo was in her early 20s, she had grown into a stunning young woman. Her beauty was the kind that turned heads wherever she went. She had completed her studies in business administration at a prestigious university, though her mother had ensured that her college experience was anything but ordinary. While other students juggled lectures and chores, Moreo had a personal driver, a cook, and even a tutor to assist her with challenging subjects. Despite her degree, Moreo had no real intention of working. She spent her days traveling, attending social events, and managing her growing presence on social media, where she shared glimpses of her luxurious life. Her posts garnered thousands of likes and comments, fueling her belief that she was destined for a life of glamour. It was during one of her trips to Lagos for a high-profile wedding that Moreo met Adewale. He was the opposite of everything she was accustomed to: humble, hard-working, and deeply rooted in traditional values. Adewale was an architect who had built his career from the ground up. He came from a modest family and had grown up watching his parents work tirelessly to provide for their children. Adewale's charm lay in his simplicity and quiet confidence. He wasn't intimidated by Moreo's wealth or beauty, and this intrigued her. They met at the wedding reception, where he was introduced as the groom's cousin. Unlike the other men who tried to impress her with tales of their wealth, Adewale spoke to her as if she were an ordinary person. "You have a beautiful smile," he said, his voice steady. "But I wonder, what makes you truly happy?" The question caught Moreo off guard. No one had ever asked her that before. Most people assumed that her life of luxury was enough to keep her content. Their conversation lasted well into the night, and by the end of the evening, Moreo found herself drawn to Adewale's authenticity. He was a man of substance, someone who valued character over material possessions. Adewale, too, was captivated by Moreo. Beneath her polished exterior, he saw glimpses of vulnerability and a longing for something deeper. Over the next few weeks, they kept in touch, and their relationship blossomed. Moreo found herself doing things she had never done before: visiting local markets, helping out at community projects, and learning about Adewale's world. Mama Aduk was initially skeptical of the relationship. She had envisioned her daughter marrying someone equally wealthy, someone who could maintain the lifestyle she had worked so hard to provide. But as she watched Moreo's happiness grow, she began to soften. Their love story was a whirlwind. Within a year, Adewale proposed, and Moreo, smitten and eager to start a new chapter of her life, said yes. Their wedding was a grand affair, blending the extravagance of Moreo's world with the traditions of Adewale's. But as they settled into married life, cracks began to appear. Moreo's pampered upbringing had not prepared her for the realities of being a wife. She struggled with basic household tasks and often relied on their domestic staff to manage everything. Adewale, while patient, hoped she would eventually step up and take on more responsibility. Moreo's first few weeks as a bride were nothing short of magical. The honeymoon in Zanzibar was a dream come true: white sandy beaches, luxury villas, and endless romantic dinners. Adewale showered her with love and attention, and Moreo reveled in the idea that she had found her prince charming. However, as the honeymoon phase ended, reality began to set in. Moreo's new home was a far cry from her mother's mansion. Adewale had chosen a modest but comfortable house in a quiet neighborhood. While it was tastefully decorated, it lacked the grandeur and constant stream of servants Moreo had grown accustomed to. Her first morning as a wife began with an unexpected wake-up call. Adewale had gently nudged her awake, a warm smile on his face. "Good morning, love," he said. "I thought we could cook breakfast together today." Moreo blinked at him, puzzled. "Cook?" she repeated, her voice still groggy. "Don't we have someone to do that?" Adewale chuckled. "I thought it would be nice for us to start our day together. Plus, cooking can be fun." Moreo reluctantly followed him to the kitchen, but as they began preparing the meal, it quickly became clear that she had no idea what she was doing. She didn't know how to crack an egg properly, let alone make a full breakfast. Adewale took it in stride, patiently guiding her through each step, but Moreo felt embarrassed and out of place. The days that followed were filled with similar challenges. While Adewale went to work each morning, Moreo found herself at home, unsure of how to fill her time. She missed the comfort of her mother's house, where there was always someone to cater to her every need. Now, she was expected to manage a home, and the responsibility felt overwhelming. Moreo spent her days scrolling through social media, shopping online, or visiting her friends. Her closest friend, Toke, often came over, and together they gossiped and reminisced about their carefree days. Toke, who was still single, envied Moreo's new life but was also quick to tease her. "So, how's the married life treating you?" Toke asked one afternoon, sipping a glass of juice. Moreo sighed dramatically. "It's different. Adewale is sweet, but can you believe he expects me to cook? Me, Moreo Aduk, in the kitchen." Toke laughed. "Ah, my dear, welcome to the real world. Marriage isn't all rosy. But don't worry, you'll figure it out." Moreo wasn't so sure. The idea of domestic life felt foreign and unappealing. She longed for the simplicity of her old life, where everything was taken care of for her. Adewale, meanwhile, was beginning to notice Moreo's reluctance to adapt. He loved his wife dearly, but he couldn't ignore the fact that she seemed disconnected from their new reality. One evening, as they sat down for dinner, he decided to address it. "Moreo," he began gently, "I've noticed that you've been struggling with the changes. I know this is all new for you, but I want us to build this life together. I don't expect you to know everything right away, but I hope you'll try." Moreo frowned, feeling defensive. "I am trying, Adewale. But you have to understand, I wasn't raised to do these things. I've never had to cook or clean or manage a house before." "I know," Adewale said, his tone calm. "And I don't blame you for that. But marriage is a partnership. I don't want you to feel like you're alone. But I also need you to meet me halfway." His words stayed with Moreo long after the conversation ended. She loved Adewale and didn't want to disappoint him, but the thought of stepping out of her comfort zone terrified her. Things came to a head one weekend when Adewale's family came to visit. His mother, Mama Funk, was a sharp, observant woman who had always been skeptical of Moreo. She adored her son and wanted the best for him, but she couldn't help but wonder if Moreo's privileged upbringing had prepared her for the realities of marriage. As the family gathered for lunch, Mama Funk noticed that Moreo seemed disconnected from the preparations. While Adewale and his siblings busied themselves setting the table and serving food, Moreo sat in the living room, scrolling through her phone. After lunch, Mama Funk pulled Moreo aside. "My dear," she began, her tone firm but not unkind, I know you're new to this, but marriage is about contributing to your home. Adewale is a good man, and he deserves a wife who will support him. Moreo felt a surge of indignation, but managed to keep her composure. I understand, Mama, she said, forcing a smile. The interaction left her feeling hurt and defensive, but it also planted a seed of doubt. Was she truly living up to her role as a wife? As the weeks turned into months, Moreo found herself increasingly frustrated. She loved Adewale, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was failing him. Her mother, Mama Aduk, noticed her daughter's struggles and tried to help in her own way. Moreo, my darling, Mama Aduk said during one of their phone calls, you're not alone in this. Marriage is an adjustment, but you're strong, just like your father. And remember, you can always hire more help if you need it. But Moreo knew that wasn't the solution. Adewale valued simplicity and didn't want a household overrun with staff. If she was going to make this work, she needed to find a way to balance her old life with her new one. The turning point came during a community event that Adewale had organized. It was a charity drive to raise funds for a local school, and he had asked Moreo to help coordinate the food donations. At first, she was reluctant, but as the day went on, she found herself genuinely enjoying the experience. For the first time, Moreo saw how fulfilling it could be to contribute to something bigger than herself. Watching the children's faces light up as they received new school supplies filled her with a sense of purpose she had never felt before. That evening, as she and Adewale cleaned up after the event, she turned to him and said, I think I want to do more of this. Helping people. It felt good. Adewale smiled, his heart swelling with pride. That's wonderful, Moreo. I'm so proud of you. From that moment on, Moreo began to take small steps toward change. She started learning how to cook, taking lessons from a kind neighbor who became a mentor to her. She also began managing the household finances, using her education to find ways to save and invest wisely. While the journey was far, there were still moments when Moreo's mother would visit, bringing expensive gifts and reminding her that she could always return to the life of luxury. Mama Aduk was disappointed that her daughter had chosen a simple life, and she often made it clear that Moreo was not living up to the expectations she had set for her. But Moreo no longer felt torn between two worlds. She loved Adewale, and she had come to understand that true happiness didn't come from wealth. It came from love, respect, and partnership. One day, as Moreo and Adewale were preparing for the village festival, she realized just how far she had come. She had been used to festivals filled with fine clothes, lavish food, and indulgence. But now, she was excited about the simplicity of the event. She had made her own dress, something she could be proud of. When Adewale saw her in the dress, he smiled and told her she looked beautiful, and for the first time, Moreo felt truly content. She had everything she needed in that moment: love, peace, and the joy of being with the person who had helped her grow into the woman she had always meant to be. Despite the struggles and the adjustments, Moreo's life with Adewale became something special. They worked hard together, faced challenges, and learned from each other. And as they celebrated their first anniversary, Moreo realized that the love they had shared was more than enough. It wasn't the wealth or luxury that defined their happiness. It was the deep, unshakable bond between them. And in that moment, Moreo knew she had made the right choice. She was no longer the spoiled girl of her mother's house. She was a woman who had found true happiness in the simplest of lives. As the years passed, Moreo and Adewale built a life together, full of love, patience, and growth. They didn't have the riches that her mother had once provided, but they had more than enough. She had learned to do things for herself, to take pride in her work, and to embrace the love that was at the heart of everything they had built. One day, Mama Aduk came to visit. She saw the change in her daughter, how strong and capable she had become. For the first time, she truly understood that Moreo's happiness did not depend on wealth or luxury. It depended on love, on the choices she had made, and on the life she had created with Adewale. Mama Aduk finally accepted that her daughter had found something far more valuable than all the riches in the world, a love that would last forever. Girl who had once only known luxury. The sun was shining brightly through the windows, and she felt a deep sense of gratitude for the life she had built with Adewale. As she went about her morning chores, she couldn't help but feel content. She had learned so much in the past few years, and each day was a new opportunity to grow. Adewale was busy in the fields, working hard to provide for them. Moreo had come to admire his strength and determination. She knew that without his patience and love, she would never have been able to adjust to this new life. Every day, he showed her the value of hard work, and she was proud to be his wife. One afternoon, as Moreo was tending to their small garden, she noticed a group of women from the village passing by. They were talking and laughing, and one of them, a young woman named Titi, approached her with a friendly smile. "Moreo, you've really changed," Titi said. "You used to be so distant and aloof, but now you seem so at peace." Moreo smiled and replied, "Life has a way of teaching you what really matters. I'm just grateful for the simple things now." Titi nodded thoughtfully. "You know, I used to envy you. I thought you had it all, the beauty, the wealth, everything. But now I see that you have something much more valuable." Moreo felt a warmth in her heart. She had never realized how much her transformation had affected those around her. She had learned that true beauty came from within, and it was her inner peace that made her shine now, not her wealth. That evening, Adewale returned home, tired but happy. Moreo had prepared a simple dinner of rice and vegetables, and they sat down together to eat. As they ate, they talked about their day and shared stories about the people they had met. Moreo loved these quiet moments with him. They were far more precious than any grand feast or event. "Moreo, you've become such a strong woman," Adewale said, looking at her with admiration. "I'm so proud of you." Moreo smiled, her heart swelling with love for him. "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied. "You've shown me what really matters, and for that, I'll always be grateful." As the months went by, Moreo continued to grow in strength and independence. She learned how to manage their small household, budget wisely, and even started a small business selling handmade jewelry. It wasn't much, but it was her contribution to their life together, and she was proud of it. One day, as she was making a necklace, Adewale came in with a letter in his hand. "This came for you," he said, handing it to her. Moreo took the letter, curious about who it could be from. She opened it and found that it was from her mother, Mama Aduk. The letter was brief, but it contained an invitation to visit her in the city. "Moreo, I miss you," the letter began. "I know we've had our differences, but I want to see you again. I want to make things right between us." Moreo felt a mixture of emotions. Part of her was excited to see her mother again, but another part of her was nervous. She had changed so much since leaving her mother's house, and she wasn't sure how Mama Aduk would react to the life she had built with Adewale. That evening, she talked to Adewale about the letter. "What do you think?" she asked him. Adewale took her hand in his and smiled. "You've come a long way, Moreo. I know you'll handle this with grace. Go, see your mother, and let her see the woman you've become. I'll be here when you return." Moreo nodded, feeling comforted by his words. She knew that no matter what happened, she was strong enough to handle it. The next day, she packed a small bag and set off for the city. As the bus took her farther away from her new home, she couldn't help but feel a bit of nostalgia for the life she had left behind. But she also knew that she was returning as a different person, a woman who had learned to appreciate the simple things in life. When she arrived at her mother's mansion, she was greeted by the familiar scent of flowers and the sound of servants bustling around. It was strange to be back in this world of wealth and luxury. But as she stepped inside, her mother appeared at the top of the stairs, her face softening when she saw her daughter. "Moreo, my darling," Mama Aduk said, rushing down the stairs to embrace her. "I've missed you so much." Moreo hugged her mother tightly, feeling a surge of emotion. "I've missed you too, Mama." Familiar scent of flowers. They sat down together, and the sound of servants Mama Aduk poured them both a cup of tea. "It was strange to be back in this world of wealth. I know you've been living a different life," she said, looking at her daughter with concern. But as she stepped inside, her mother appeared at the top of the stairs. I don't want you to feel like you have to choose between us. Moreo, my darling, you can have both. The love of your husband and rushing down the stairs to embrace her. Moreo smiled softly. "I've learned that it's not about having both, Mama. It's about finding peace with what I have. And right now, I have everything I need." Mama Aduk looked at her daughter, surprised by her words. "I see that you've changed, Moreo. You're not the same girl who left here. And I'm proud of you for that." The next few days were filled with laughter and conversation. Moreo shared stories of her life with Adewale, and Mama Aduk listened intently. Although they still had their differences, there was a sense of understanding between them now. Before Moreo left to return home, her mother gave her a beautiful silk scarf as a gift. "I know you may not want all the riches I have, but I want you to have this. It's a symbol of my love for you." Moreo accepted the gift with a smile. "Thank you, Mama. I'll treasure it always." As she boarded the bus to return to her new life, Moreo felt a sense of closure. She had made peace with her past and was ready to move forward with Adewale, knowing that their love was the most important thing in the world. Back at home, Adewale greeted her with a warm hug. "I missed you," he said, holding her close. "How was the visit?" "It was good," Moreo replied, smiling. "We had some difficult conversations, but I think we're on the path to understanding each other better." Adewale nodded. "That's all that matters. I'm just glad you're back." As they sat down to dinner that evening, Moreo looked at her husband and realized how much she had grown. The life she had once known no longer felt like home, and she had found peace in the life she had built with him. She didn't need the riches or the luxury. She had everything she needed right there, in Adewale's arms. The years passed, and Moreo continued to grow, both as a woman and as a wife. She and Adewale built a life full of love, laughter, and simple joys. And though they didn't have the wealth her mother had once given her, they had something far more valuable: each other. And Moreo knew that, in the end, that was all she had ever truly needed. As time passed, Moreo's life with Adewale grew richer in meaning. They had come to rely on each other not just for support, but for understanding. Every day was a step toward a deeper bond, and Moreo was amazed at how much she had changed. Her husband's patience and love had helped her grow into a strong, independent woman who could hold her own in any situation. One afternoon, as Moreo was sitting by the window, reflecting on all the progress she had made, she noticed a young girl from the village walking down the road, carrying a basket of goods on her head. The girl looked tired, her shoulders slumped under the weight of the basket. Moreo felt a pang of sympathy and decided to help her. She quickly went outside and offered the girl a glass of water. "You look tired, my dear," she said kindly. "Can I help you carry your basket?" The girl hesitated for a moment, but then smiled gratefully. "Thank you, Ma. I've been walking for hours, and I don't know if I can go much farther." Moreo took the basket from her, feeling a sense of pride in helping. As they walked together, the girl introduced herself as Beezy, and they chatted about her challenges she faced in the village. Reached Beezy's home, Moreo had learned that the girl's family was struggling to make ends meet, and her mother was ill. Moreo offered to help in whatever way she could, and soon, Beezy and her family became part of her circle of care. Over the next few weeks, Moreo visited Beezy and her family regularly, bringing them food, medicines, and other essentials. She also spoke to Adewale about their situation, and together, they decided to help the family start a small business selling produce from their farm. The gratitude Beezy's family showed Moreo warmed her heart. She realized that, in helping others, she had found a deeper sense of fulfillment. Adewale's influence had taught her that true wealth wasn't about material things, but about the love and support shared with others. One evening, as Moreo was reflecting on everything she had learned, Adewale sat beside her. "You've come such a long way," he said, his voice full of admiration. "When I first met you, you didn't understand what it meant to give without expecting anything in return. But now, I see a woman who is full of compassion and love." Moreo smiled, her heart swelling with love for him.
When this guy tried to prove to everyone not to believe everything on social media,
"You've shown me the true meaning of life, and I'll be forever grateful."
He did it in a way you definitely
As the
weren't
years
expecting.
passed,
As he
Moreo
starts,
and
you can see him
Adewale
eating
continued
every
to build a
slice.
beautiful
But if you
life
haven't
together.
noticed yet,
They had
he's
children,
eating only the center
each
of the
whom was
pizza
a
and then the
reflection
camera
of their
cuts.
love and dedication
Last piece.
to one another.
When he finishes the last
Moreo's
slice, you
growth
won't
was
believe
evident
what he
in
says
everything
next.
she
Most of
did,
you will believe
from
I ate
managing
that
their
pizza.
home to helping others in need.
I just saw him take a
One
bite out
day,
of every piece.
while
He ate it
visiting
all.
Beezy and her family,
Did I?
Moreo noticed that
No,
the girl's
he wouldn't.
mother, who had been ill for some time,
He wouldn't
seemed to
eat
be
the entire center of a pizza to
Moreo
prove that you
immediately
can't trust
stepped
everything
in,
you see on the internet.
organizing a fundraiser to get the family the medical help they needed. Adewale was right there with her, offering his support and encouragement. Together, they managed to raise enough money for the treatment, and Beezy's mother began to recover. The joy and relief on the family's faces were priceless. Moreo realized that every sacrifice she had made in her life, every lesson she had learned, had led her to this moment. She was living her purpose, and it filled her heart with happiness. As she and Adewale stood side by side, looking out over their land, Moreo couldn't help but think back to the woman she had once been, the spoiled, pampered girl who had known only luxury.
Internet,
The
would he?
woman she was now was so much more
Oh, yes, he would.
She was strong,
When this guy tried to
independent,
prove to
and
everyone not to believe
she
everything
knew
on
that, no matter what challenges came, she and Adewale would face them together. The seasons changed, and with each passing year, Moreo continued to thrive. She and Adewale built a beautiful home, not just with bricks and mortar, but with love, understanding, and mutual respect. They found joy in the simple moments, working together in the fields, sitting by the fire at night, and watching their children grow. One day, Moreo received a letter from her mother. It had been years since they had spoken to her, and she was curious about what it might say. The letter was filled with words of love and regret. Mama Adik spoke of her wish to reconcile, and to rebuild their relationship. Moreo sat quietly for a long time, holding the letter in her hand. She knew that her mother had her own journey to make. Just as Moreo had grown, so had Mama Adik grown. She decided that it was time to make peace with her past. After speaking with Adewale about it, Moreo decided to visit her mother in the city. This time, however, she was not the same young girl she had left the mansion years ago. She was a woman who had learned the value of love, sacrifice, and kindness. When she arrived at her mother's house, Mama Adik greeted her. "Moreo, my dear, I'm so glad to see you," she said. Moreo smiled, her heart full of understanding. "I've come to make peace with myself and with you." The two women sat
Let's
together
go, baby.
for hours.
Yes,
They
you
shared
got this.
stories
Kill
of
it.
their lives
I love
and
you.
friends.
Well, I found a
In the
woman
end, they found a sense of feeling.
stronger than
As
anyone
Moreo
I
left her
know.
mother's house, she felt light.
Okay, you can stop dancing after this. Let's go, baby. Yes, you got this. Kill it. I love
As the years continued to pass, Moreo's life was filled with love and fulfillment. She and Adewale had built a family that was strong, loving, and supportive. Together, they had overcome challenges, learned valuable lessons, and created a home that was a reflection of their love for one another. Looking back, Moreo realized how far she had come. From the pampered girl who had known only wealth to the strong woman who had learned the value of hard work, sacrifice, and love. She was proud of the person she had become. But most of all, she was proud of the family they had built together. With Adewale by her side, and their children to guide them, Moreo knew that no matter what came next, they would face it with love, grace, and the strength that came from their deep bond. Years went by, and Moreo's life became even more intertwined with her community. As her family continued to grow, so did her influence. She and Adewale had built something beautiful together, not just within the walls of their home, but also in the lives of others. Moreo had become a beacon of hope for many, particularly for women in the village who had been oppressed or overlooked. One day, Moreo met a young woman named Reby who had recently married into the village. Reby was shy, timid, and seemed to have no voice of her own. Mareo immediately saw the signs of someone who had been controlled and mistreated in her own family. It was clear that Iridi's husband had inherited the same sense of entitlement and dominance that Mareo had once known. Mareo took Iridi's love and wisdom she had gained over the years. "You don't have to live like this," she said one afternoon as they sat
married
together
a vegetative
on Mareo's
person.
porch. "You are worth the way
3
you are
years
being
ago,
treated."
you ran over my brother,
Iridi looked
and
at
he's been in a
Mareo,
coma
her
since.
eyes filled with both
Now
gratitude
marrying him
and
to bring
uncertainty.
good luck is
"But I
a
don't know
huge
how to
blessing
change
for you.
things. He's my husband.
No,
And I'm
I
afraid of
didn't
what might
hit
happen
anyone.
if I stand up to
I
him."
was framed by
Mareo
my
smiled
dearest
gently.
sister.
"It's not about standing up to him. It's about standing up for yourself. When you do, you will see that you are stronger than you think." Over the next few months, Mareo mentored Iridi, teaching her how to find her voice and reclaim her power. Slowly but surely, Iridi began to change. She became more confident, more assertive, and more able to make decisions for herself. One day, after a particularly difficult conversation with her husband, Iridi came to Mareo's house with a triumphant smile on her face. "I did it," she said. "I finally told him how I feel. And you know what? He listened." Mareo hugged her tightly. "I knew you could do it. You are stronger than you realize." Iridi's transformation was just the beginning of a ripple effect. As she grew more confident, she shared her newfound strength with other women in the village. They, in turn, began to speak up for themselves, and soon the village was filled with women who were no longer afraid to demand respect and equality. Mareo's heart swelled with pride as she watched the changes take place. She knew that her journey had been difficult, but it had led her to this point, where she could help others